All right, well, let me get my PowerPoint screen back up. I got myself a little disorganized here for a second. All right, let me just double check that you're seeing the right one. Nope, that is not the right one. Let's try that again. All right, great. Well, as I said, welcome everybody to the UNC Adult Neurology Residency Program Virtual Open House. It's a pleasure to meet and see many of you virtually today. My name is Winnie Lau. I'm the Residency Program Director, and I have a couple of our residents and my Associate Program Director here with me. So I want to just take a couple minutes for us to introduce ourselves so that you can kind of get to know us a little bit and our program.
I'll kick it off. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate y'all being here. My name's Sina Williams. I'm the Associate Program Director of the program. Kick it to Amanda.
Hello, welcome everybody. I'm Amanda Crooks. I am a PGY4. I'm one of the chief residents. I went to med school at UNC, doing my residency at UNC, and I'm staying at UNC next year for a vascular neurology fellowship because I love UNC.
Life
I live in Durham with my dogs and my husband, and that is probably a good enough introduction for me.
I can go next. I'm Sanjana. I'm a PGY2. Not from North Carolina. I'm from Michigan and was in Ohio for many years before coming to North Carolina. But very happy I moved here. Also love UNC. I'm repping with my Tar Heel t-shirt right now.
Nice.
Yeah, I live in Chapel Hill, pretty close to the hospital. Love exploring the area. Big foodie. And so I've been doing a lot of that this year.
Awesome. And then another member of our residency team that's not here tonight with us, but of course our residents know very well, is our coordinator, Miss Sharon Ward, who set up this wonderful virtual open house for us. She is going to be a great resource to all of you as you apply and you have questions about our program. Her email's right there, as well as mine and Dr. Williams, and you should feel free to reach out if you do have questions after this virtual open house. And you can see our hobbies. Right. Some other just important people within our program. So our neurology department is headed up by Dr. Gwen Garden. She is a cognitive neurologist who previously did her training and faculty years at various institutions, but most recently at the University of Washington. She is a cognitive neurologist that specifically does research in Alzheimer's, dementia, and biomarkers, and has been a really great advocate for building this neurology program and building the neurology faculty to what you will see today. And then Dr. Nina Browner is our Vice Chair of Education and a Movement Disorders doctor. She's a huge presence within our neurology program as just an immense educator. She was a former program director herself, which means that residents really hold a very special place in her heart. And so we're so grateful to have her as an advocate and a leader in our program. To tell you a little bit about UNC, so UNC Medical Center is the hub of a larger UNC network that spans across the state of North Carolina. So you can see in this top map over here that these are all of our affiliate hospitals that reach all the way into the mountains and onto the coast of North Carolina. And what that means that as the mothership, we really have a huge catchment area for the whole state. And we serve as a resource for the whole state. So we are known as North Carolina's state institution as its public hospital. We have now tipped over to over 1,000 inpatient hospital beds with the opening of our new surgical tower just a number of months ago. We're a level 1 trauma center. We're the state's burn center. And as you can see, we see a really high volume of patients coming through our ED and our inpatient services, totaling in 65 to 70,000 any given year, 65 to 70,000 ED visits per year, which includes adult and pediatrics. Our ACGME programs house up to 800 residents and fellows. So you're really at an academic institution surrounded by other trainees, surrounded by faculty who are dedicated to education and academics. As a public institution and a state hospital, we do serve the underserved patients of North Carolina. And so our kind of payer spread, or how people are insured throughout our program, you can see is right there, which is about 40% of our patients are government insured in some way. That includes Medicare, Medicaid, TRICARE, workers' comp, and other government services. And then we have also charity care and self-pay patients, and then the remainder of the patients are through private insurance companies. The main medical center is actually a 6-hospital system, which includes, and I'll point these out here with my cursor, the Bass Knight Cancer Hospital. Right back here behind it is the Neuroscience Hospital. Right here is Women and Children's Hospital. They're sort of linked, but technically 2 separate hospitals. Memorial Hospital, which is over here, and then our new surgical hospital, which actually just opened this August. In our department, we have a broad range of subspecialties that are represented. Under Dr. Garden, over the last 5 years, she has managed to increase our faculty to over 40 with really broad representation. So you can see all of that that we have available here, as well as some really interesting ones, including neuroinfectious disease and neuroepidemiology. We do have several fellowships, both ACGME accredited and UCNS accredited. And so all of the asterisks are the fellowship programs that we have available to our trainees, should they wish to stay with us and be a homegrown UNCer like Amanda, and hopefully Sanjana. In terms of our neurology service line, so in this big hospital system, the neurosciences, which includes neurology and neurosurgery, have 36 dedicated floor beds, and that serves the patients on the stroke service, the general service, as well as a subset of beds that are dedicated to our epilepsy monitoring unit. We also have a 22-bed dedicated neuro ICU that's run by 2 dedicated neurocritical care teams. We have an intermediate step-down unit, which is 18 beds, and right now we share that with our surgical services. However, coming in about February to April-ish, that intermediate step-down unit will become a dedicated neuroscience step-down unit, which will only be for ENT, neurology, and neurosurgery patients. So we'll have some bed expansion here coming soon. Our inpatient service is very busy with approximately 1,000 inpatient admissions per year. We see about 2,000 patients in consultation per year. And our resident clinics, our residents see a ton of great patients in their clinic. They see about 160 patients per year, such that you'll have 3,300 clinic appointments over your 3-year period where you have resident clinic. A couple of basics of our program. So we are a categorical program. So that means your intern year is spent here with us at UNC. You are automatically interviewing with our internal medicine program when you interview with us. No need to do that separately. We do match 7 per year into our adult neurology program, and we also match 2 per year into our pediatric neurology program. We do sponsor J1 visas. We are unable to sponsor H1B visas. And here's our lovely class of interns who have just started and have really gotten their feet wet, and I think they're swimming already. All right. So now let's talk about these wonderful people. You're gonna find out very quickly through the pictures that they really like themed parties and they're a fan of that. So I'm going to start with our core values. So this is actually really important to us as a residency program. These core values were actually written by the residents a number of years ago, and we use it very forward in our recruitment because we want to make sure that these things stay aligned and that we really project this out there so that we know we are recruiting people who resonate with these same core values. So of course, like any residency program, residents come first. And then the rest you can really see are about how you treat each other as co-residents and how you work together as a team. Hi, Ray. Sorry, I'm distracted by the chat. They're really about treating each other with respect, helping each other out, supporting each other, lifting each other up, and really being nice to each other, even when you're tired, because we all recognize that residency is hard. And what makes residency great is the people you're in it with. And in terms of how we develop our residency program, our program is not one of those throw you into the deep end of the pool and sink or swim. Our whole schedule is designed in a way that fosters progressive responsibility, starting with, Sanjana just finished her buddy call, right? So buddy call is when a senior goes with you to all of your stroke codes for a number of weeks until you've really kind of got your footing, got your system underneath you, and then you're kind of liberated from that senior supervision and you're running stroke codes on your own. And then we really move through the year. We don't put you on night float right away. We don't put you on neuro ICU right away. We kind of ease you into it. You go to neuro ICU. Then after you've done neuro ICU and taken care of some of the sickest patients, then we put you on night float. And it's all a graduated progression to really get you here to a level of expertise like Amanda for when you're getting ready to graduate. I know she's making a face, but she does have a level of expertise. And this picture I particularly like. This picture is more of a personal picture for me. When I was doing some leadership training, they asked me to pick out a picture that described my version of leadership and mentorship. And so I'm sure somebody knows what this is a picture of. This is a test flight of the Wright brothers on the beach, right? And this is how I think of it. This is you. This is one of the Wright. I actually don't know which Wright brother was in the plane, but this is you in the plane, right? But what are all the things that led up to being in this plane? It required thoughtfulness, test flights, planning, working together, and this is me over here. I was with you the whole way, right? And now you're in there. You're gonna do the flying, but I'm right there to safety check you. And so this is sort of my own personal philosophy as a program director, and the way that I want this residency program to support you is I want you to go on the adventure, but I'm going to make sure that that adventure is safe and that that adventure is really successful. All right. A little bit more about our neurology department. So we're very proud to hold all these badges of being a center of excellence in neurologic care across so many subspecialties. You can see epilepsy, movement disorders, neuromuscular, and stroke. We're very proud to say that we were the first comprehensive stroke center in the Southeast area, and continue to be awarded for the high quality stroke care that we're giving here at UNC. And then we are big fans of what I like to call Neurology Plus here, right? We're all going to leave here as great neurologists, but we like to make sure that we're fostering a plus component for you and figuring out what it is that you want to be successful in your future career as a neurologist. And so we have lots of opportunities for our residents. I'm going to start with education as sort of a soft spot in my heart. That we have many residents who are dedicated to the mission of education and as we like to call it, curing neurophobia. So all of our residents are required to do some scholarly presentations, which include grand rounds as a senior. And this is one of our recent graduating seniors in her grand rounds. We have dedicated training programs for our residents who are interested in teaching. That's through the Academy of Educators, and we've had residents enter that program just about every year now. And then we do pretty often get involved in the preclinical neuroscience course for the M1 and M2 years, where we participate in their path labs, their localization labs, and their clinical case-based learning. And that actually just closed out just this past week that we finished all those classes. There's lots of opportunities to teach in the community. This is Abby, one of our former residents at a local high school. There's also lots of speaking opportunities in terms of in the community to our emergency medical providers. I think actually Ray, who jumped on, is either has given or will give soon a talk to our local EMS providers at the Wake Med Stroke Conference. And then there's also opportunities to speak within the UNC system. This is Nakash, one of our second-year residents, who's actually doing a lecture for internal medicine. And this actually just happened last week. And we are deeply committed to reaching out to our community providers and actually really helping make neurology care accessible to the patients of North Carolina. We sort of recognize that lots of academic institutions tend to cluster together, and you'll see in a little bit that there are many academic institutions clustered around us as well, but that our patients are out there in the community and that we want to find a way to reach them, and we want to find a way to help our primary care providers and our general neurologists get the best care that they can for our patients. And so this is actually the Community Engagement and Health Equity Committee is one that is very active, and we're very proud to say the residency program is really involved in. It's led by Dr. Suzette LaRoche, but as you can see, her co-chair is actually one of our residents, Claire Books, and they've had a really successful year introducing education into the community, collaboration with telehealth visits, and working on Claire and Sean helped me develop a rural community neurology rotation, which we're getting approved presently. And our one of our PGY3 residents, Kit, will actually be taking over as co-chair in this committee once Claire graduates. We also have tons of research opportunities. Being at a big academic center, you have access to a lot of other academic resources. And we're very proud of how UNC has so many strong medically related schools, including our Center for Biomedical Research and Imaging, our Gillings School of Public Health, which is consistently rated either #1 or #2 in the nation in terms of public health education. The Odom Institute, which does social science research, and the Eichmann School of Pharmacy. So there's lots of opportunity to collaborate between different teams and have lots of resources available to you. And this is just a very quick snapshot of our faculty and some of the work that they're doing, which includes things like palliative care and coma research to psychiatric disease and neurologic patients to imaging research. So a really strong research environment here at UNC as well. And then perhaps quality improvement is your thing. And of course, I have to highlight Amanda here as well, because she's our quality improvement queen. But all of our residents are involved in quality improvement at a minimum through our morbidity and mortality conference, where you learn how to do a really intense root cause analysis of a gap that there is in healthcare that needs to be corrected and needs to be kind of plugged. So Amanda did this last year, looking at how to improve our detection of basilar artery occlusions. We have a House Staff Council program that has a scholars program where you can get involved and be a House Staff QI scholar. And then we actually also have a healthcare Institute for Healthcare and Quality Improvement. And actually one of our faculty members, Dr. Casey Shipman, is an associate director at that institute. And so serves as a wonderful mentor for any residents who are interested in doing quality improvement. And so we have had residents and fellows take their quality improvement work to national conferences and present them there. And then global neurology. I know, it just keeps coming, right? There's so many things. And we also have global neurology opportunities through a partnership with the Universidad Peruana Cayetano in Peru. We have two faculty who have professorship over at this university. Monica Diaz is one of them, who's pictured right here. And she helped set up a clinical observership in Peru where you can actually go spend time in the neuroinfectious disease clinic, see how they treat neuroemergencies in their inpatient hospital setting, and complete a global scholarly project while you're at it. And so two of our residents have gone to date. We've had this running for just a little over a year and a half. So we've sent two residents. This is James Andrews, one of our former residents from last year who recently graduated. And this is Kelby, one of our chief residents who actually just went in June. All right, so where do our graduates go? What do our graduates do? So this is our lovely graduating class from this past year. We miss them so much already. So from the last 5 years, the large majority of our residents do pursue fellowship, but we're very happy to say, and actually proud to say, that about 20% of our residents go straight into practice. When we say straight into practice, many of these include neurohospice practices, but we have had residents go straight into outpatient practices as well. Over the span of their career, about 16% of them end up staying in academics, with the other half kind of going into private practice. And then these are the states from just about our last 5 years of graduates and where they've landed ultimately for their careers after fellowship. All right, and then just to tell you a little bit about North Carolina and the Triangle before I take a break and catch my breath and let other people talk for a bit. So we are in the central part of North Carolina in an area called the Triangle, and the Triangle makes up Chapel Hill, Durham, and Raleigh, right? Makes a triangle. And down the middle of the triangle is a research corridor called the Research Triangle, where there's a lot of tech going on. Chapel Hill and Durham, there's another school in Durham that won't be named, are about 20 minutes from each other. And then Chapel Hill to Raleigh, which is our capital, is about 40 minutes away from Chapel Hill. If you want to learn a little bit more about just this area in general, the New York Times has actually done really nice features of both Chapel Hill and Durham called the 36 Hours series. And so you can actually find these two on the New York Times website or on YouTube. Raleigh itself is known as one of the top 30 cities with the highest restaurant number per capita, which if you ask Sanjana was apparently one of the reasons why she came, because we talked a lot about food the last time. And Raleigh itself is scored the number 6 best city to live in the US. So really great place to be. And then it's centrally located in North Carolina. But what that means is it's pretty close to everything. If you were a mountain person, it's about 3 hours to the mountains of Asheville and the Blue Ridge Mountains, where there's it's about to happen soon when the leaves change and you go out there in the fall. It's absolutely beautiful, excellent hiking, excellent camping. It's 3 hours from the beaches of the Outer Banks. And then if you're a sports person, we have plenty of sports. So we've got the Hornets for NBA. We've got the Carolina Panthers. We got the Hurricanes, which is hockey. And then, of course, we have a very deep-seated tradition in basketball at UNC. And then there's like this other smaller team that like doesn't matter as much that's down the road that was led by this guy for many, many years. And then really our residency is about the people. I mean, they're a lot of fun. There's a ton of them here. I don't think I need to speak for them, but they clearly like hanging out with each other. They like having fun with each other. Sometimes they'll let me hang out with them, which is kind of cool too. And they are really the best part of this program. I can't say any, there's no limit to how much good I can say about the people who are here. And we're really proud of them. So I am gonna stop sharing my screen now. And then I think I saw that there was like a few streams of more residents that popped in that maybe should also get a chance to introduce themselves.
Yeah, someone, Ferris just joined as well, so I guess.
You were keeping track.
Yeah, Ray, are you still in the console room?
Yep. Hello, I'm back.
Okay. You want to say hi and introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, I am Ray. I'm one of the PGY3s. I'm currently on my night shift, so I have this whole room to myself for right now. Nice to be here.
It's like a little mini tour of our little dungeon in there.
Awesome. We also had Jocelyn join. Jocelyn, do you want to introduce yourself? There.
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Jocelyn. I am PGY1, so an intern.
Nice. And then Ferris also.
Hey everyone, I'm Ferris. I'm a PGY2. Nice to meet you all.
Awesome. So I have a little list of questions here and I'm sure we gathered a ton more in the chat. I'm going to start with some of the ones that our residents can answer so that I can give myself a speaking break. So the first question is, what is your favorite bragging point about the program? Don't all jump up now. Ferris, you're still on screen. I'm going to just call you out first.
Sure. Let's see.
And then you can call someone. You can popcorn it to your co-res.
Yeah. Okay. Honestly, the first thing that came to mind is everyone. I really like everyone that I work with. Everyone's really easy to talk to. Even when we're working, I feel like there's always time for laughs and just to like hang out, grab food. I also felt like as a PGY2, I'm now like doing the deep dive into the neuro world, and everyone's been really nice and like always willing to lend an extra hand to teach me the ropes. So having a good time. And then I'll popcorn over to Chief Amanda, since I see you on my screen.
Thank you, Ferris. I think one of my favorite things about our program is how responsive it is to resident feedback. It's a really, really dynamic program that is always taking into account kind of how residents feel. We're the ones, on the front lines doing the work. We see where the opportunities are for improvement. We see where things are going well and where they could be better. And we're constantly, everybody's so open to feedback from the residents and really trying to improve things on a regular basis to make patient care better, our learning better, and just our experience overall better. Sanjana.
All right. I think for me, it's the culture. Like I think throughout UNC, it's not just within the neurology program, but it extends to the internal medicine program, which you spend a whole year with. And then not just within like our neurology, like general neurology department, but also like in clinic with the subspecialties, and then in the neuro ICU. I think throughout, everyone does have they want to treat each other how they want to be treated. And I think that really does come through, even in really stressful situations, because obviously we have a lot of patients, we are in a lot of emergent situations, but I feel like in general, everyone treats each other with respect, which is really great. outside of that, I think just the variety of things that we see, I think that was one of the other reasons I picked UNC outside of the food. But I think the variety, like you see like a large breadth of like, inpatient, outpatient, subspecialties, ICU. So if you're undecided and I still don't really know what I want to do in the future, like you can really explore everything. And I'm just starting that now.
All right, I will put one more bragging point in that I'm surprised nobody said, but it's a big bragging point that I think we really have, which is that I consistently say this: when our residents leave UNC, they've basically completed like 3 months of a stroke fellowship. We give our residents the high quality training and really the autonomy to do stroke care, such that residents are actually the ones making the TPA decisions. And giving TPA. This is not run through a fellow. It will not be run through Dr. Crooks next year. The residents will continue to give TPA, and we're actually really proud of that. As I mentioned before, it's really important to us to close that gap in that need for neurologists. And so we are very proud that lots of our residents are ready to go into the workplace, leaving their residency program, and don't feel like they need to do a fellowship. And part of that is the strength of our stroke education. And so that's like a super bragging point for us. All right, let me handle just a couple of questions about, candidates and logistical things. So someone asked, is our program IMG friendly? Yes, absolutely. As I said, we sponsor J1 visas. We typically have probably about one per class or so who is on a J1. And so we know how to handle that. I do review the IMG applications, so they don't get shuttled away, they get reviewed. And then there are a couple of questions about how do we take into account the scores on STEP, or the pass-fail on STEP, or lower STEP 2 scores. So we do a very holistic review in our program. I actually pretty much blind myself to the STEP scores in the first go around. I don't think that standardized tests are the way to determine whether or not someone is good academically. It just tells me you know how to study and take a test. And so when we're reading the applications, we're really looking for other special components about you. Probably the most important thing is that we're looking for your passion in neurology, right? We want to know that the people who are coming to neurology truly love it. And found a way to embrace it in some way. And that could mean scholarly activity, but it doesn't need to mean scholarly activity. And so probably the most important thing out of your entire application is your personal statement. It's the very first thing I read out of every application. That can probably lead us into a general question we can ask everybody, which is, what do you all think is an ideal candidate for this program? Like, who are the people that fit into our program and our residency group? Let's see. Ray, you still out there?
Ideal person who fits in with our program?
Yeah, like someone who would be successful in our program. What do you
Yeah,
think?
totally. I mean, I guess this is gonna tie because I never answered like the thing I want to brag about for our program too. So I mean,
Oh,
it
you
kind
can
of ties
answer
into
that.
like the personality thing, right? It's like if you're a person who is obviously professional, but like friendly, likes to hang out with a good group of people, is very interested in the field, wants to do good things for people. Like that's really kind of the whole vibe of I think all of us here in the program. So that would be kind of what we're looking for here. I mean, and obviously that's like to some extent kind of a general thing that I'm sure everyone looks for, but I think that's the kind of thing that I like a lot about our program. As you go and interview at a whole bunch of places, I think there's a lot of people or a lot of places that are going to say, oh, like the big thing about our program was the people. So it becomes kind of hard, I think, for you guys to sort of parse that out from place to place, but it's obviously super important, and it's something that I think I agree with here. Our administration is super approachable, extremely supportive. The same thing with all of our seniors and all the residents overall. One of the things I think that distinguishes our program from others in a lot of those respects is that you know, I think for a lot of programs, like the seniors, once they get into PGY 3 and 4, kind of like disappear and go off to do their own kind of like personal electives and their own stuff. And for us, I think we have a structure where, you know, we make a real strong effort to make sure that we're here and we're available and we're able to help give like training and guidance as far as you need it, and then the autonomy as so far as you feel like you're comfortable handling. And everyone's super cool to hang out with and work with. So yeah, long answer, but hopefully helpful.
Great answer. Do any of the other residents or Dr. Williams want to jump in on an ideal candidate for the program?
I think I agree with what Ray said. I think the biggest thing is people who are willing to collaborate and just have discussions with you. I think if that's that, I think that describes us perfectly. I think even when we get a new consult, like Ferris and I were on consults together the last few weeks, and it was, even though it was stressful, we had a great time. Like every time we got a new consult, we would just talk about it together with ourselves and the senior, and it didn't feel like work. It felt like we were just kind of discussing things, which was super great. And so I think I would be really sad if like someone wasn't willing to do that with me, but I don't think there's anyone like that in our program. Everyone wants to collaborate. So
Yeah, I'll build on that. I think everyone's like super reliable and willing to lend a hand. I haven't experienced a scenario where someone gets their own work done and is trying to head home early without offering to lend a hand if their colleague is still working on things. You know, Sanjana and I were like, she was on stroke consults, I was on general consults, but you know, very often if there were more general consults coming in, she would help balance out that workload. So just more people to lean on and to help one another out.
Yeah, I don't know that I can say. The funny thing is there's not kind of a specific like type of person or personality, because Dr. Lau and Dr. Williams seem to put together every year an amazing class of very different people who just get along so well, and really kind of have different strengths and help each other out in that way. I always tell, you know, the med students coming through, anybody can learn neurology anywhere you go. And anywhere you go, residency is going to be tough sometimes. So I think the most important thing is finding somewhere where you know that someone's going to help you out when you need it, because you are going to need it at some point, where there are people that you're willing to help out when they need it, and that you can just feel really comfortable with whatever you're going through. It's a process. And so finding your people wherever that ends up being is the most important thing.
Oh, you guys make me want to cry. It's so beautiful. You guys are amazing. I think the next question that we had submitted in the Q&A was about the structure of our continuity clinic. I'm going to kick this one over to Dr. Williams, who can maybe talk about X+Y a little bit, and then also talk about continuity clinic.
Sure. So yes, so in your PGY 2-year, we follow an X+Y schedule where your clinic weeks will be separate from your inpatient weeks. And that's because, you know, when you start neurology, you're basically doing an intern year all over again. It's totally different. You know, you're learning a bunch of new things. And so it can be very overwhelming trying to grapple with your inpatient neurology brain and to try and flip over to the clinic space. It's very difficult. So that's why for the PGY 2-year specifically, we maintained the X+Y over the last few years. So what that means is that all of your resident continuity clinics are consolidated into 1 week when you're not going to be on inpatient at all. And so in that, to gain some early exposure over the last few years that we've been doing this, we built a subspecialty kind of exposure experience for the PGY2s. So 2 clinic mornings of your clinic week, and you'll probably have about 2 to 3 resident clinics per week. And 2 of those mornings, we plug it into the subspecialty clinics to get some exposure. So you'll do 2 days in a movement clinic 1 week. Next time you're on your clinic block, you may do cognitive the mornings. Another week, you may do neuroimmuno, epilepsy, and kind of try to rotate you through. And usually the way it works out is in a given year, you've probably rotated through all of those subspecialties about twice on average. And that's to let you be really informed. So as you approach your PGY 3 and 4 year, you kind of maybe have a sense of what subspecialties you'd like to explore more and do a kind of more full comprehensive elective in. And then when you're a senior, when you are on inpatient service, you typically go to clinic like one afternoon a week. And that's because it's a ACGME requirement that you do 40 resident clinics a year. And so just trying to fit those all in. When you are a senior, typically you'll leave one day a week just for that clinic. And then you'll have kind of your other clinics splattered throughout the year, sometimes on electives and things like that. And then we've recently just, again, to try to make sure everyone has good exposure to everything, we've kind of been trying to expose everyone to kind of a minimum exposure to each of the subspecialties for an average length of about 2 weeks. So we are, kind of requesting that all residents get at least 2 weeks of full cognitive or sleep exposure, 2 weeks of neuroimmuno, 2 weeks of movement, just so that way you really have truly had a nice, well-rounded experience in outpatient neurology. And then I think I'd mentioned in there, typically in the PGY3 year, we've always historically had residents do 1 to 3 months. It's up to them of neuromuscular EMG exposure. And then you do have excess elective time in addition to these things. So that way you can really kind of delve into what you want to do. Yeah.
Awesome. And thank you, Dr. Williams, for being an absolute beast in the chat. Like, I don't know how you answered so many questions, but I did peruse them. And there were a couple questions about conference benefits. And someone also submitted a question in the Q&A about just other benefits for residents. So I'll first say that we will pay for step 3 as long as you take it by the time you're a PGY3 third-year resident. Very important. We want all our residents to do so very successfully. We recognize that the easiest time to take step 3 is after your internal medicine year. We actually encouraged most of our interns to take it during intern year. So, Sanjana's group and Ferris's group have all basically knocked them out within the last couple of months, and very successfully. And so we do pay for that because we want to support you in that way. We recognize that lots of you probably have student loans and things like that. And so we're here to support you and kind of shoulder some of that burden. There is also a meal allowance. I wish it were more. It's not a ton, but there is definitely a meal allowance, and that gets paid out annually, which is pretty similar across most of the residency programs, except the programs that have a higher kind of in-house call have a higher distribution of money. There are also, in terms of going to conferences, so we have, the residents have an annual book and travel fund that they can access, but we will also fund any resident that goes to a conference for the purposes of presenting. So if you've done something with a faculty member, you're presenting a poster, you're actually doing an oral abstract, we do have specific funds dedicated to sending residents to those conferences. And we fund up to $1,600 per year per resident to go to conferences. And that does not come out of your specific book fund. We also actually will support any kind of small costs related to research. So say you needed to buy some software, data analysis software, and you wanted to buy a 1-year license, we will fund those small costs as well, as long as they're like under $1,000. And then in terms of kind of other perks for the residents, so the residents are considered employees of UNC Health, which means they actually get all the same kind of employee perk benefits as the rest of the hospital staff do. So that includes discounts to gyms, discounts to like telephone plans, like there's discounts with Verizon and T-Mobile and AT&T. There's, sometimes if you go to some restaurants with your badge, I just found out there's like 10% off at some restaurants, especially Colaveras, which is right next to our clinic, in case any of the residents didn't know that. I think Ray and I figured that out one day. So there's a lot of extra benefits that are provided to the residents as employees of UNC Health. Any other perks that I didn't mention that the residents would like to mention? No one's ever used that small gym, Amanda. I
I
mean,
think
I know it's
Kelby, I
there.
think Kelby's an
Okay,
enjoyer of
I
the small
have,
gym.
Kelby has, and
I'm
also
pretty
I
sure
know for a
Kelby
fact
does.
that Luke went there once when he had like a 10-minute break and ran a mile as fast as he could and then came back to the workroom sweaty.
You can also speed walk the giant bridge that we have that goes into the hospital. Residents have done that too, so.
I'll also
Opportunity.
need that video for roast, by the way. So whoever wants to provide me with that race, I would much appreciate it.
You can also pay for the university gym membership. I think it's about like a 150 for basically their academic year, and you get access to like their pool, like their massive like Olympic size pool. You get access to like their student rec center, and other variety of like gym. They have classes, so you can take spin classes, you can take bar, yoga, you name it.
All right. There is a question about how does the program support the transition between a PGY1 to a PGY2? And I think this is best answered by Sanjana and or Ferris.
I guess I can go first. I think it's been a really great transition. We first do well, honestly, it kind of starts your intern year because it's not like you're only doing internal medicine your intern year. You are interns on the neurology service a few months throughout the year. So you already know how that service works. You know a lot of the attendings, you work with your seniors, you're like a part of the program from like your intern year already. After that, at the very end of intern year, you do get a clinic week, which is just observing various faculty members. And actually this year, I don't know, I think for some people it worked out. So I actually got to rotate with the senior who I was taking over her patients for in clinic, which was a really nice like kind of transition point where I actually got to see some patients that I would be following in resident clinic the following few months. And then you can see how the outpatient clinic works, kind of the workflow. And then you have boot camp. And so our boot camp, so you kind of start off with a few dedicated days of workshops and teaching that Dr. Williams does a lot of the stroke teaching. And then Ray actually helped with our sim lab, which was great. Kind of funny at some points, but you know, we have a good time, even though it's workshop, but we
A very convincing seizure from the
yes. There's some fun mannequins that will seize and talk to you while they're seizing, but anyway. And so yeah, so I think we have that dedicated workshop time, which is a few days at the very beginning of PGY 2-year, where you kind of learn the actual like process of doing a stroke code, process of dealing with like neurologic emergencies. And then you have a few months long of boot camp, which is basically dedicated didactic time every single day for the first few months. I don't know the exact time frame of that, so someone can help me with
2
that.
months.
2 months. And so we just finished that, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago. And so that's protected time for our year to go to those didactics, even if you're on the stroke pager, or even if you're on an inpatient service, your senior will take over for you and you're expected to go to that boot camp and learn and be engaged. Outside of that, we have buddy call. And so I think all of those things put together, like, it's been a really smooth transition. I think a lot of us are at that time where we're kind of coming towards the end of buddy call. And I really appreciated that. Like, I think there's no push to get you out there on your own. It's kind of whenever you feel comfortable. Because I will say I was pretty anxious, like being on stroke call. I was like, you know, sim lab is very different than being there in person, and every stroke is different. And so it was really nice working with not just one senior, but multiple seniors when they're on swing shift, and you can kind of see different styles of approaching strokes. And so it was nice to kind of take little bits and pieces from each person and incorporate that into how I want to do it. I haven't done one on my own yet. I just was signed off last week, so we'll see how that goes. But I feel comfortable doing it, which is important.
Did you get your ceremony video?
I did, and yeah,
we have a whole compilation of knighting.
Yeah, we're doing a new
truly get knighted. It's a new tradition, so
everyone reflex hammer. So
when y'all come here, you can get knighted when you're ready to do stroke codes on your own.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sanjana, that was really comprehensive. I don't know if I have too much else to add. Just I second everything you said. It's been a pretty smooth transition, and I felt well supported all the way through.
Ferris was so ready, he was able to run 2 stroke codes 3 minutes apart from each other on Sunday.
That was my very first code stroke without a senior, and I didn't think I could do it, but I did it. So
You did it. You did it. Okay, I think we have just enough time for maybe 2 more questions, which I'll take. One is super directed at me. It's the how are the dynamics in the neuro ICU in terms of autonomy for the neuro residents, diversity of cases, and sufficient hands-on experience? So right now, as of this academic year, our residents have 4 weeks in the neuro ICU, which is done during the second year. It is in that transition phase of getting them to night float. When they're in the neuro ICU, the patient diversity is all comers, right? So it's not, you're only going to take care of neuro patients. It's not, neurosurgery residents take care of neurology patients. As you are in the neuro ICU, any patient who lands in the neuro ICU could be your patient. So that's the diversity of it. We do take care of both neurology and neurosurgery patients in our ICU, including post-op patients. And then we have advanced practice providers in our ICU that are kind of the foundation layer of the program, of the ICU program. So you work alongside really experienced critical care nurse practitioners and PAs who are used to treating really sick patients. So you get to really learn how to code patients, brain code patients. They're very competent at procedures. So in terms of a resident becoming very competent at the procedures, some residents are less interested and let the advanced practice providers do, and some residents are like all for it and really get in there and do a ton of procedures. And then you, of course, do procedures when you're in the medical ICU during your intern year. And then there was one, oh, I've sort of forgotten. Oh, I will do the final question, which was there was a question about program signals and how do we use the signals and geographic preferences. So I will say that this is our 3rd year now using the signals. So we are getting used to kind of figuring out what they mean. This year, you all, I believe, get 8 signals, which is higher than the last couple of years, which were just 3 signals. Look at everyone enviously going, you got 8 signals.
Yeah.
So the way we think about signals is they are an opportunity to say, hey, look closer at me, right? For whatever reason, maybe it's look closer at me because I'm really interested in UNC or I have family in the area, but it's really a chance for you to raise some flags up at us and go, hey, like, look at me over here. Right. In some ways, sometimes they end up helping with tiebreakers, right? We have only so many interview spots to give. And so if we're looking at fairly comparable applicants, the signal might play a role to that. But actually beyond the interview, the signal doesn't play a role for us at all. So after the initial selection for interviews, we wipe the signal from the application so that none of our faculty can see the signal. I don't remember the signals. Dr. Williams doesn't remember the signals, and everything from there, the slate is wiped clean. And that's because we think you have the right to change your mind. You might have signaled us because you're initially interested. You wanted to check out the program. Now you've checked it out. The signal doesn't mean anything. You might not be that interested in us anymore, and that's okay. And so that's how we treat our signals, is they are an opportunity for you to tell us a little something extra, whether that's through the geographic signal or the location preferences, or through the program signal itself in order to get us to look. And then I do definitely always read the meaningful impact part of the signal, like the meaningful events section. So I encourage you to use them however they best suit you.
Yeah. But we don't like only look at people who have signaled the program or signaled geographically. We definitely, use it and kind of think through it, but it's not like if you didn't, that means like there's no chance that we would look at. We don't exclude people.
Correct.
So.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us. It's 8:59, very respectful of patients' time. I'm always trying to end didactics on time too, like, it's 12:59, stop talking now. So thank you all so much for your interest in our program. Thank you to our residents who took some time to talk with all of the applicants today and share their experiences. You're all wonderful, and I look forward to seeing many of your applications and hopefully meeting some of you in the future.
Thank you. We really
Thank you.